Hear music for a little bit.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor. The voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time. And SpongeBob SquarePants. Ah, meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned.
And here we are. We are now live on Splash Pages, the comic book club. And with us, as always, we have the Velvet Joker. How's it going, sir?
Good. We got it right here. Three Jokers.
And that is Rich Davis. And we also have Chris. How's it going, Chris?
Hello.
And we do have a new face here. Drew, would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Drew Mallow. I am, I guess, a freelance writer for Screen Rant, a comic book enthusiast, a cosplayer, and yeah, that's enough you need to know for now. But thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay, so tonight we are talking about Three Jokers, and this was a DC Black Label. It was published all the way back in 2020, October through November, I believe. It was written by Geoff Johns, art by Jason Fabok. So 30 years after Batman the Killing Joke changed comics forever, Three Jokers reexamines the myth of who or what the Joker is, and what is at the heart of his eternal battle with the Batman. New York Times bestselling writer Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok, the writer-artist team that waged the Darkseid War in the pages of Justice League, reunite to tell the ultimate story of Batman and the Joker. After years of anticipation, starting in DC Universe Rebirth #1, the epic miniseries you've been waiting for is here. Find out why there are three Jokers and what that means for the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime. It's a mystery unlike any Batman has ever faced.
Quick correction, though. The Rebirth had nothing to do with Three Jokers. It was Darkseid War.
It was Darkseid War, and then he actually told Green Lantern in Rebirth #1.
No, he told them at the end of the Darkseid War.
I got it from Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is so goddamn wrong, and I've heard that read so many times, and I constantly have to keep correcting people. No, at the end of the Darkseid War, Green Lantern asks Batman two questions. What did the joke? What did the he talks about what the chair did, because Batman sits in the chair of knowledge, and he asks it one question: who killed my parents? That's right, it was Joe Chill. I knew that. what is the name of the Joker? And then it pauses, and then he's beamed with light, and he's like, that's impossible. And then at the end of the entire story, after they wrap it all up in a neat little bow, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, asks Bruce, what did the chair say? And he's like, when I asked it the name of the Joker, it told me it couldn't give me an answer. There are 3 Jokers.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, deep breaths. That was fine. Just deep breaths. Everything's okay. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Wikipedia isn't always right, but you know.
Idiots on Wikipedia! I come for you.
Okay, man, your blood pressure. Okay, you got to keep it within moderate levels. You can't do this from a hospital bed. Okay, relax.
That's Bill's level, Drew. You got to get used to that. That's his level all the time.
I know, but this is how messed up this is. I'm the good cop here. This is weird. Why? You know, this is really odd. I got a narrator. I got one of the three Jokers joining us, and then I'm the good cop, and I got the nerd cop. This is ridiculous. But whatever.
Jeff Homan said, "What is up? I'm a Joker." Yes, you are, Jeff. Jeff from Still Token With, and you can find him here tomorrow night. So I know, Rich, you like me to go over what was happening in the world at that time when these come out. Since we're looking back all the way in 2020, obviously,
what happened in 2020?
Oh, it was an the apocalypse for one, but TV. You had the Goldbergs, the Good Doctor, NCIS for season 55. Blue Bloods, Grey's Anatomy, Bridgerton, which I hear was good. And movies, I mean, I think Wonder Woman 1984 came out, which is a little confusing. Is 1984 2020?
And that was the greatest joke of them all.
Also, Leo, I'd like to point out, thank you. That was wonderful. We're all glad to know what exactly you've watched in 2020 now. That was a wonderful summary there.
What was, I know this is off topic, but I enjoyed Hubby Halloween. I enjoyed Wonder Woman. I enjoyed the Goldbergs and the Good Doctor. Drew, what were you watching all the way back in 2020? Finding myself unemployed, I found myself with an amazing amount of time to watch so many wonderful shows with such quality deals. I caught up on a lot. I watched Barry from HBO. I watched everything except the last 2 episodes of Silicon Valley, which I'm still mad about. Not mad because the show was great, because Mike Judge can do no wrong, but mad because the deal ended with Hulu before I was able to finish it. So I was like, oh, yeah, exactly. One of those. Caught up to the Good Place. Nope. I have more than enough programs and I'm paying more than enough money for. I just have to wait for someone that I can do what is the legitimate thing now is barter. So if somebody wants Hulu and has HBO Max, I can barter with that and then everybody wins and, I can see everything and still pay the same amount of money. Generosity among nerds. That's what I'm saying. Right now I'm finishing up Schitt's Creek. It's hilarious. I just watch whatever during my little breaks because, as you know, you need to break it up when you're staring in front of a computer most of the day. Because if you don't, you're gonna have trouble sleeping and possibly could go into a Shining-like psychotic breakdown. So Oh. Okay, so that explains a lot for me.
Indeed. Yeah. So,
just as we might need to barter.
And everyone needs to check the show Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
I'll barter my DC All Access account to somebody.
Pass.
The first victim of the streaming wars was DC.
No, the first victim of DC was us. Oh my God, that was
the first victim of DC was just their absolute. I mean, it was nice to have like all that stuff on there, like Wonder Woman, Blu-ray, high definition. The original '70s show and stuff. But
it was. I've complained about this so many times, but DC Universe was a shit show from the beginning, because I pre-bought a year.
Put the crowbar down.
Wow.
Let's talk about 3 Jokers, goddammit.
Oh,
Put the crowbar down. Do it now.
Do it now. Do it now.
Is
Okay,
your wife, did your wife approve of that purchase before you made it, Leo? Because that sounds like a really bad investment.
it was. She didn't know about it, but it was.
Oh, now she does.
Well, because Kevin Smith came on. He did this whole big review about DC Universe, and he was saying, "Oh my God, how wonderful it is! Is everything DC?" And I was
It's a
expecting.
shill for everything comic book related.
Yeah, I know. It was. I was expecting so much more, but when it launched, it had nothing. It was, well, not nothing, but very little, and it didn't work on Fire Stick at the beginning, and it was just a pain in the ass. So,
And Leo, you bought a year, right? You bought the
I
whole
bought
year.
it. Oh yeah, and
All right, I'm just
still,
trying to make sure everybody remembers.
I know, and I'm still paying for it too. So,
Are you a fan of lollipops? Because it sounds like you're quite a sucker. So
I am. Yeah.
Oh,
just one, with all due respect, I really don't want to. Also, I don't know, Jeff. Yeah,
you don't want to get into his Reddit controversies.
Exactly, but and also to answer Jeff's question, I don't know. I just realized me and Rick, both have spelled words today. Horrible. Both have exposed brick wall theme going on here. I don't know if you noticed this, but we could both just. Well, what's going on there? How you doing? Hey. Yeah, nothing like exposed brick to just really bring out the hominess wherever you record.
On the side of each other's walls.
It's indeed solid. Definitely worth bashing someone's head into.
let's get on the issues.
So I know Rich definitely wants to get into three Jokers here, and
Okay.
yeah. I went into this blind. I have to say, I know I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I'm so glad I did. I absolutely fell in love with it. I know I'm jumping ahead of everything, but it's just the writing, the artwork was just, everything was just spot on. But so we're getting the story of three different Jokers. You have, let me pull up my notes here.
Got the comedian.
Yeah. So you get the Joker that killed or supposedly killed Jason Todd back in 1988, Batman: A Death in the Family. You also get Golden Age inspired The Criminal and the Comedian from Killing Joke.
Right.
So let's kick it off. Rich, since you are the Joker extraordinaire.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we have three different crimes, and yet the Joker is seen in all three crimes. How can that be? No one knows. No one knows. But in comes Batman. And you were saying about the art, like right here, they're showing like all the wounds over the years on Batman's body, and then they sort of highlight what caused it. Boy, just between the art and the imagery of that, just telling a story.
Yeah, going through the history of Batman, and that's actually one of the things. Is I was reading that Geoff Johns, he said that this was canon in the beginning, but then in a later interview, he actually walked it back and said, "Well, it's up to the reader to interpret."
Right.
I think he got into trouble with how long it took Doomsday Clock to get finished. And that has upended a lot of like side story stuff.
Jeff says we have fake bricks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure, Jeff, I can probably attest that the bricks on my end might be exactly real, but they are extremely comfortable.
Does Jeff have anything to say about the actual show, or just the brick walls behind the two comedians?
No, he must be a Pink Floyd fan, because all we're just another brick on the wall over here. Thank you. I'm just going to keep focusing. But I also will say that one of my favorite parts of the first issue, which we're going through now, was the dedication to the 9-panel format, which is something that we've seen primarily in Watchmen. Dave Gibbons kind of made that. And it was something that earlier on in when they did Doomsday Clock, when Jason Fabok did Doomsday Clock. I think it was like the first issue, not Doomsday Clock. It was The Button with Tom King, which kind of kicked off Doomsday Clock. He kind of mimicking that 9-panel thing, and I think it's really wonderful because it shows it takes the time to show specific details. And Leo, it's like what you said with the scars. Each one has a memory, and it was really fantastic that they took the time to really go through that. And you saw how each one that Batman's, his body is not just a tapestry of his war on crime, but it's like he's a living Batcave for his own memories of his time as Batman, and everything is dealt with.
So with Rich, you were talking about the different crimes that were happening. So each one seems to be iconic to the Joker that perpetrated the crime. So the first one takes place at Ace Chemical, where Joker was created.
Right.
And let's see.
And then while you're looking that up, also when you're talking about the imagery in the comic book, where they also show Barbara's wound, where the Joker shot her in her spine. Oh, that just sent chills up my spine.
Yeah.
I thought you would like that most of all.
What's that, Chris?
What's that, Chris?
I thought the Joker would like that most of all.
Well, there's a part of me does, but there's still the guy that's in control some of the time.
They in the Killing Joke animated movie, which you can skip over the first 20 minutes of that complete travesty and get right to the actual comic book adaptation. The post-credit scene is Barbara becoming Oracle.
It's true.
And the only other time we've ever seen her become Oracle in any type of media is there was, I think, a single episode of the Batman set in the future where she's Oracle, and the Birds of Prey, whatever you think about it, TV series that was on CW a few years back.
I love this little clip here where Joker he's driving the tractor trailer of the chemicals, and he actually swerves trying to hit the raccoon.
Right. And that was pretty cool too, because he pulls in and you were seeing it through his eyes, and he sees his wife and his kid, but in actuality, there's nothing there.
It's also
Joker comes out and shatters the illusion.
Besides Barbara's scar, we also see the back of Jason Todd's head, where you can see the scar where the Joker cracked his skull open.
Mm-hmm.
And with that crowbar, it's unbelievable. The worst part of this entire story, I'm going to get right out and say it, is Jason trying to come on to Barbara, and she just being like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Well, I think
Nightwing is enough for me. Thank you very much. And it's just how old is Jason compared to Barbara? Because she's supposed to be the same age as Dick Grayson, and Jason's supposed to be not as old as Dick Grayson.
Kyle says, I love this comic. Very graphic.
I think the other thing that's really interesting is you notice that Geoff Johns juggles a lot of themes throughout the whole thing, and has everyone here has brought up, everybody here has some sort of sick connection to the Jokers. You have Batman, you have Barbara Gordon, you have Jason Todd. They all have scars. They've all been scarred, plural, by the Joker, and then in that way they're all connected to him. So I mean, it's funny because people brought up like, oh, where are the other members of the Bat family? Where's Tim Drake? Where's Damian and everything? And honestly, I think it kind of works that you have such a limited cast, because you have these three people who are integral to Batman's kind of history with the Joker, because they're two walking embodiments of kind of a failure on Bruce's end. He wasn't able to protect them from the Joker, and they're kind of living. They survive, but they're living testaments that he's human, and that humanity is kind of his weakness that the Joker always preys on.
It was very cool to see Gaggy, the little little person Joker character from way back in Batman number 186. That
the
was
Jester.
a cool little Silver Age Easter egg.
And so also with it's Gabby, right? Gaggy.
Gaggy.
We get the Joker fish and the Joker shark. I think that is one of the coolest things I've seen.
That was the most one of the most beautifully terrifying things ever. Just and again, it's real a testament to the artist. I mean, if you've watched his artwork, he is just leaps and bounds, and it was already great to begin with. But you see that, and that is just some Jaws level terror right there. But the Batman's like, this is nothing. This is Gotham on a Tuesday right here. Come on, man. But for me, the true moment was when he eats the Jester, and he just look at that. That is that's you get a print of that worthy. I can't hear that and just keep thinking, Roy Scheiber, some Richard Dreyfuss level stuff from Jaws. We're gonna need a bigger boat, kind of deal.
Touching on something Drew said, I completely lost it now.
He'll come back.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, about Jason, real quick. I have a potentially coming interview with Jason coming up on Radio of Horror. He had, despite all the problems of 2020 for a lot of people, Jason probably had the best year in comics. Not only did he finally get the long overdue 3 Jokers done, but when the 3rd issue finally came out, he became a father too.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to him. Yeah.
So he's taken some serious, much needed time off from comics because drawing these 3 issues, I'm sure, exhausted him. And then the sales of it were, huge.
Amazing.
There was the controversy with the comic book store, which had nothing to do with him. It was just a jackass comic book store deciding to market his signature for their own needs. And then he became a father.
And I will say that because I've met him before, and he is such a pleasant and really nice individual. He loved meeting his fans, and he'll sign stuff and whatnot. And he is just such a really nice guy. So it's just so nice to see him get dues with such a great storyline, and for it to get so well received. Just all of this, the entire first issue alone, you understand why it had to be a Black Label kind of issue, because it was the only way that you could get all of this detail.
Yeah, look right there, the splatter of the Joker's head when Jason shoots him in the head, the first Joker. I mean, it's wicked violent.
So the Joker that he shoots is the one that we assume is the one that took the crowbar to him.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and also in this scene, it's Barbara throws the batarang at him, trying to stop him, and he says, I think you wanted us too, because when's the last time you ever missed?
Right.
The Barbara, by the way, going back to her costume is my favorite of all the Barbara costumes that we've had. This dark gray look to her is fantastic, and the way Jason draws her in it is just unbelievably beautiful. Also, again, until somebody writes it in the main Batman book that this isn't continuity, it's kind of its own thing right now. But Gordon knows his daughter is Batgirl,
right? Because she calls him Dad.
Yes, yeah. And they are kind of going with I don't know how much Dr. Manhattan and the Death Metal and all the other continuity rewriting alternate time history events of DC Comics have changed things to make that so. But does anyone remember Once Upon a Time? Barbara was not Gordon's daughter; it was his niece.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I think nowadays it's his daughter.
Well, it's funny because right now what DC's going through is after the end of Death Metal, they have something that they've now called an omniverse, which all stories kind of not only kind of exist and matter, but they influence each other. So it's a sort of looser continuity, which let's just all be real here, guys. That has always been comics true kryptonite, Achilles heel, whatever metaphor, because continuity is always difficult because the constant rebooting, the constant changes or whatnot, it's hard to really create a timeline that you can stick to details and you can base sort of a history behind. So, it in some ways, like, that story is candid, this story is candid, everything is relevant, instead of you have all this stuff and then one writer just makes 25 years of stories meaningless. So it's, something, again, I'm seeing a lot of it right now in current DC, and if they stick to it, I think it could be really, really good in terms of what they need. But whatever.
Do you like the thing with Joe Chill? How the Jokers wanted to make Joe Chill a Joker, and also Batman saves Joe Chill's life, and they have like a pleasant exchange. Like Johns wrote it in a way that, yes, Joe Chill will always be responsible for creating the Batman, but it seems as though Batman has forgiven him.
I mean, yeah, it was a pretty interesting exchange, but I think, and especially in, like, as I think it's Leo is flipping through the second issue, what I also enjoy is that you have this whole argument about, well, there's this whole idea that a Joker can be simply created, that this idea that it's kind of the same thing that it's a reference to the Killing Joke, because in the Killing Joke, Joker tries to break Gordon. There's this whole thing, crippling Barber, kidnapping him, live through that fun house of horror, was that his theory was that all it takes is one horrible day to make anybody him. And you see this, they kidnap Jason, they beat him just like they one of them did before, and the goal was, we want to make a new Joker. We think it could be you. And then they end like, you're too broken. You won't be a good Joker. Bye. We'll find someone else. And I think personally that's an interesting idea. I think it's also, to be quite honest, it's something that kind of could be said even in cosplay. Like, anybody could be a Joker, and we've certainly seen that. But some people just somehow channel it maybe a little better than others. I'm not really sure how to say that, without sounding a little, I guess, condescending or elitist. But Rich, don't give me a look. No.
You're absolutely right, Drew. Because listen, I love doing different incantations of the Joker, and I don't subscribe to just one. Some people refer to me more of a Cesar Romero Joker, but I've done 20 different outfits of the Joker and different incantations, and each one is a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Some are direct reflections of movies or comics, and some are combinations of all three.
Yeah, whatever works. And again, as we're flipping through, for anyone who hasn't read this, look at this detail. Like, some people would struggle so much. Jason Fabok has this, and I apologize, I have a problem saying names incorrectly, so I apologize if he's listening and I said it wrong. But he has this cinema quality with his stuff. It's so realistic. Like, it would be so easy to make Three Jokers into a movie, because it's like he just made little mini storyboards for all of it. And honestly, the most heartbreaking thing was to realize how many people died just because the Joker was trying to find a new Joker. Look at all these people that are just,
It's pronounced Fabok.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, the death toll's never been an issue for the Joker.
Yeah.
Ever.
So I just want to rewind for a second, because we were talking about Joe Chill and Batman having the interaction with him at the end. It seems like all the main characters, this was all about closure, because obviously Jason got closure with Joker, and Barbara got closure with her Joker, and then obviously Batman with Joe Chill.
Right. Yeah, that was when Barbara smashed him in the face with the camera. Just blast.
Did anyone get the Joker? I guess that you could call them trading cards, but they're basically playing cards with Batman Joker, Batgirl Joker, and Jason Joker.
Yeah, I have like one or two.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But I think another moment is it's something they've addressed is when Barbara and Jason are talking. After he's been cleaned up and he had his little breakdown, rightfully so, but still, is that this whole idea that Jason kind of had to pick up his like kind of rebuild himself, piece himself back together after everything, and that he didn't have the support that Barbara did when she was paralyzed. She had her friend, she had her family, she had Bruce and Alfred and Dick looking out for her, but Jason didn't have that. And it's really amusing because this whole idea that if they knew he was alive, because remember he was dead and then he was resurrected by the Lazarus pit and that whole messy story, is that whole idea that he could have been different. Like his life could have been different. He might have been better had they known, because he could have gotten the support that they wanted. And that is kind of a group failure that everybody, whether they acknowledge it or not, kind of takes with them. And again, it's really says a lot about Geoff Johns, his ability to balance, action with these really sincere emotional moments that really, I think, show his love for the characters. And I thought it was really great because it makes Jason Todd not just what he was in the beginning, which was just this Dick Grayson knockoff. He was able to really evolve as an individual and find himself, and that's why he's been such a popular character. I would say over the last, let's say, decade or two, ever since his return. So I think that was a really great moment for Jason, especially because he goes through such shit this whole story. So that's my 2 cents.
No, it's excellent. You're absolutely right. Jason didn't have the support, and that made him go a little bit more nuts. And Superboy Prime causing his little tamper tantrum didn't help that matters any.
Yeah.
I don't think
nothing
continuity. I don't think the Superboy Prime having his tamper tantrum on the walls of eternity reverberating through the DC universe is in continuity anymore. I think it's a I'm still alive, crawled out of the grave, fell into the Lazarus pit. I'm still waiting for the moment where he says that. I'm still waiting for the moment for Damian to mouth off to Jason sometime and him turn around and say, "I banged your mom once, so shut the hell up."
Yeah.
Matt Rozier says, so at work can't listen, but Batman Along Halloween is an amazing graphic novel. That's another one I need to read.
Wait, who said that?
Matt Rozier.
Oh no, I'm saying who said they hadn't read it.
That's becoming 2 animated movies this year.
Yeah, I still need to read Long Halloween.
Oh, absolutely, and I cannot recommend Long Halloween enough. I own all of it, and I have it signed by Tim Sale, the artist, who is gorgeous. And I will, Leo, I cannot you have to read that, and then you have to read its sequel, Dark Victory, because Jeff Loeb, way before his work at Marvel, kind of ruined him. And I can say that because I've read a lot of the Ultimate Universe. His Batman stuff with Tim Sale, anything he does with Tim Sale, I cannot not recommend to you enough. So it's that, the Marvel Color series he did. So that's Hulk Gray, Spiderman Blue, Daredevil Yellow, Captain America White. They're all amazing. And Long Halloween is, I can't wait for that film, to be quite honest. So definitely check that out.
Will do. Yeah, it's definitely on my short list to read. So in completing with 3 Jokers, one of the things Batman's going through Joe Chill's little room there, and he finds the letters to Bruce Wayne that were not mailed, and then the final one is Batman with the tickets for the theater. So obviously Joker knows who Batman is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does.
Bringing it back to where it all began.
Exactly.
the best moment of that ever is usually in the Untold Legends of the Batman, which they've recreated a few times, like the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, the final episode, where he teams up with Joe Chill for something, or Batman Year 2, and then like at the end of it, he unmasks and he goes, "I know because I am Bruce Wayne, the boy in the alley. You shot my parents, you son of a bitch." And Joe Chill's like, "Oh God, I'm an old man," and dies of a heart attack.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because there was a moment in Grant Morrison's Batman where you had something like that, where Joe Chill wasn't aware, and then he found out that Batman, he created Batman, and he just can't handle it. It's just such a shock, and I seem to recall, it's been years since I read the issue, so my memory is a little hazy on it, but I seem to recall, like, in that issue, he turns his gun on himself because you just can't handle having created something that essentially all the criminals in Gotham would have killed him over. Like, it's because of you we have Batman. Like, you son of a bitch.
Yes, I think that was the Untold Legends of the Batman, actually.
Yeah, whatever works.
I think the criminals like shoot him in like disgust because they're like, "You son of a bitch! You're the cause of everything that's ever happened in Gotham to criminals." Bang, 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 bang.
But I think the other thing to really point out is, like, again, we've addressed this. Like, in the New 52, you had this whole idea that there were 3 Jokers, which was really interesting because you're like, how can there be 3? Like, but then you're talking about a world where there's alternate universes, there's different timelines, like all this kind of stuff. You have 3. And it's kind of explained how. So it's kind of like a magician showing you how he did the trick. And then they just pulls another one because then there's just one. And it's amazing because, again, it's all done to ensure that the Joker is Batman's like favorite. It's his special buddy. Like, there's nobody else. Like, nobody will have that kind of relationship with the Dark Knight like the Joker. And it's so funny because they've touched on it in other comics, this kind of obsession brittled on love that the Joker has for Batman, like a very jealous girlfriend.
He's my mirror image.
Yeah, exactly. That whole they're the 2 sides of a separate coin, or the same coin. But it's so funny just to see in the end, it's exactly that. He's like, I know who you are. It doesn't matter to me. Like, we do what we do. We are who we are, and eventually one day I'm going to kill you.
Unless it's that issue of Batman Black and White where it's a kid playing with his dad's rifle and he accidentally fires a shot off, killing Batman without even realizing it.
Right. And he reveals that not only does he know who he is, but he knows who Jason is and he knows who Barbara is. And he says that he'll never, ever reveal because that could stop the game. Mm-hmm. And he never wants to stop the game. And like Drew said, until they're both dying in each other's arms.
That is the best part when he's like, just, if I tell anybody, you're going to stop. What's the fun in that going to be? I don't care that you're Bruce Wayne. And of course, this was coming out, by the way, the exact same months as the Joker War, where the Joker knows in continuity right now, the current Joker, that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and used it to his advantage to steal all of Bruce Wayne's money.
And it's funny because, again, at the end of Joker War, oh, I'm dead. Not really. The new series that James Tynion is going to do, it's supposedly supposed to be very horror themed. Yeah. And I cannot say how much I'm excited for that because Joker War was, in my mind, great and truly wonderful story. Because it's just the problem with comics is, again, something that I think it's funny because I just finished reading Invincible, which I cannot wait for that series. And they had this wonderful point about comics doing the same thing over and over again, and being very resistant to change. And I feel like it's the same thing with Batman and Joker. Like, how many times can they fight? How many people have to die? Yet Joker ends up in Arkham, or oh, he's dead, but he could be dead. He could be back anytime. You had this sense this is something new, you know, the finality of it, and yet the Joker manages to pull through because it's like in New 52's Endgame, he's this immortal kind of like Pennywise the Clown entity. He will always come back. He is always smiling, always in the background, always ready to start some mischief.
Leo, I gotta jet at 9, so we gotta jump over to the.
Okay, so we'll finish this up just real quick. At the end, Jason leaves a note to Barbara saying that he wants to make a change. And basically, if I don't hear from you, I'll know that, you don't want to take it further. And obviously the note falls and someone
Never sees it.
She never sees it.
Yeah,
And,
fun time cleaners. That's who's on the back of his the janitor sweeps up the note.
Oh, I totally didn't catch that. But I think the other big thing is, like I said, the end of the issue, spoilers. If you've been reading this whole thing and you still are going to be mad at us about spoilers, not our fault. You have the Joker's family. They're alive.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right. And not only that, but he lied to the Bat family once again because he actually does know what the Joker's real identity was.
Mm-hmm.
And because he stashed away the family.
So also, and I know we'll wrap this up right in a minute here. Does this create like a loop? Did Batman or did Bruce Wayne create the Joker because he shuffled the family away, and then the family, the cops told the Joker at the time before he was Joker, I forgot his name, that his wife died, and that's why he goes with the criminals.
Right.
And it falls into the vat.
It's all cyclical.
It is.
Cyclical.
Okay, so we will be let's see. Let's do the crowbars. We'll start with Drew. How many crowbars out of 5 would you give this?
Story, art-wise, I'm going to give this, for me, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 crowbars. I enjoyed it for the most part. To me, I felt the ending, something about it wasn't just resonated as well to me, but the story itself was still pretty strong. The artwork is gorgeous. And honestly, for any Batman Joker fan, I do recommend you definitely check this out. So I'd say 3 out of 5 crowbars.
Okay. Chris?
I give it 5.
5. Okay. Velvet Joker.
Oh, no doubt. It is 5 crowbars. And I feel that ending has such possibilities and ramifications in the future for future storylines, because the fact that the Joker's family still exists, Batman knows, no one else knows. That is so huge to the DC universe, to the history of Batman. The possibilities of what could happen to that family are just endless.
Totally agree. And for me, obviously, well, not obviously, but I absolutely loved it. Totally amazed by it. And I give it 5 crowbars as well. It's I was so overjoyed with this, because going into it, I didn't really expect that much, but I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so we are going to be talking about Spectacular Spider-Man 142. So I will chop this up afterwards. I won't run the commercial because we're running late. And so let me just pull up my notes here. Finally, Spectacular Spider-Man 142, published in 1988, written by Jerry Conway, art and inks by Sal Buscema, letters by Rick Parker, colorist is Bob Sharon, editor-in-chief at the time was Tom DeFalco, and editor was Jim Sailcrow. And finally, it's the blockbuster showdown between Tombstone and the Spectacular Spider-Man. The location, a construction site in Atlanta, Georgia. The mission, bring Tombstone to justice or die trying. Meanwhile, the Avenger and the Persuader continue their efforts to brainwash the captive Punisher. Cameo appearance by the clone of Gwen Stacy. I will try to tune in my inner Sophia Picture It, Sicily, 1988. Movies in the theater: Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Moon Over Parador, and A Fish Called Wanda. Saturday morning cartoons: Alf Tales, Police Academy, Garfield and Friends, Cops was a cartoon. Who the hell knew? And on TV, 21 Jump Street, Growing Pains, Perfect Strangers, Full House. Some awesome stuff. So, Chris, take it away, sir, and I will pull up the comic.
We'll get into Cops some other time. That's a whole thing to unpack that I have sitting on DVD next to me. But yeah, so the issue opens up with Peter swinging through the skylights, and you're wondering, gee, wasn't the last issue he running off to be Mary Jane? You know, because his wife got attacked by Tombstone, and we immediately jump right back to that. And you find out that she is okay with a sprained wrist, as Tombstone came in and just twisted her wrist in order to get some information. He calls Peter at the hospital saying, I want that tape that's got the incriminating evidence against me from my good pal Robbie. And right there you have the best of Sal's artwork. Jumping right back to the cover real quick, I want to point out the scope of his artwork with the way Tombstone is holding Spider-Man over a girder. You got to make sure you pay attention that he's standing on a girder, because otherwise it looks like Tombstone can fly. I guess the title Will is just, it mostly focuses on, you know, like Robbie's will, because Robbie has pretty much given up in this whole story. He thinks his back is broken, even though he's told it's not. We also have, you know, the will of the Punisher being broken by a mutant. We have who will break their will first, Spider-Man or Tombstone, in their big climactic battle. A lot of power of willpower kind of analogy going on in this whole issue.
Yeah, I was a little confused. So I didn't know Gwen. So right in the middle of this,
why don't we save that till the very end?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, why don't we say that? Because that leads into a whole big episode we have to unpack with the Spider Clone podcast who will come on for it.
Okay. So why did they throw it in the middle? They should have put it in the end.
No, there's at least 3 more issues coming with the Gwen clone making appearances before the High Evolutionary War. Yeah.
Indeed. And I just remembered I haven't read this, so I cannot review it properly. So I'm going to go. Still great. Regardless, this is wonderful. And I will see you all another time. Thank you. And good luck reviewing this hard-hitting story, pun intended. And y'all have a good night and smile.
You too.
Thanks,
Drew.
Bye, Drew. So we have Robbie with his son getting through rehab, still believing that his back is broken when it was just been traumatized. And this is really important because Robbie sees the ghost of Tombstone, and this is not the last time Robbie and Tombstone will have interactions, because there's a big courtroom. The trial of Tombstone will come up eventually. Which doesn't really amount to much, considering Tombstone is running around the Marvel Universe right now. But the giant Robbie Tombstone fight comes back in Amazing Spider-Man next month, actually, in the current comics, which is really fantastic. You are so far ahead.
Sorry. I was looking for Tombstone with Robbie, but
Robbie basically pushes through the ghost of Tombstone's past in a way in order to realize that he has a story to tell, and he calls Jonah down, and then of course also resigns as the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, because he feels as though a person who is an accessory to murder should not be working at the Daily Bugle. Gee, J. Jonah Jameson had the same problem when it was revealed by the Hobgoblin that way back in Amazing Spider-Man, which, by the way, these events take place before the Secret Wars comic book we covered. The Hobgoblin blackmailed Jonah with the revelation that he created Alistair Smythe and the Spider Slayer robots and the Scorpion. I'm sorry, he created the Scorpion and the Fly. He didn't reveal that he created the Spider Slayer robots. Don't know why the Hobgoblin didn't have that evidence, maybe because Norman Osborn, which was retconned later on to reveal, hadn't planted that information. But it just seems a little bit weird that Robbie's going to resign, considering he knows Jonah's history of creating murderous monsters like Scorpion, who has murdered plenty of people.
So
The
one
fight,
thing- oh,
the
sorry.
fight is, by the way, fantastic. I mean, you just have this, the flashy, swinging, arching panels with the rushing of the air for Spider-Man and everything else is amazing. True testament of the art by Sal.
Yeah, totally agree. The artwork is amazing in this. And one thing I found shocking, Tombstone. I mean, he's not really, a super villain. He's just a regular guy, and he's, he takes out Spider-Man.
He would eventually get superpowers, like super enhanced strength, but that's not a story that we're going to get to for quite some time.
Yeah.
In the animated series, like I said, Tombstone, I'm pretty sure Tombstone was a black guy who got dipped into like a Joker vat of chemicals and got his skin bleached white. Whereas in the comic book, as I said before, he is an albino black man.
Right. And I think in the animated also they said that whatever that treatment was made his body bulletproof.
Right. Basically hard as granite, like a tombstone.
Right.
But the fight between the two of them, especially when Spider-Man, Tombstone's like, I got you, and he knocks him off, and he's like, oh, Spider-Man's dead, and Spider-Man just comes swinging back because Spider-Man wants payback for his wife. He ain't gonna let Tombstone right there, just the smash across the face over and over again. I mean, he is pissed about what happened to MJ and Robbie. It was personal with Robbie. It was really personal with MJ.
Yeah. And the last panel on this page here, and this is really hard hitting, especially for anybody that's been bullied or anything like that. He's saying, why would you do this to Robbie? I mean, you were going to kill him. And he says, how could I kill him? Robbie's my friend. Even though he bullied Robbie his entire life, he still considers him his friend.
Yes, he does. Sad.
Very sad indeed.
And of course, the Arranger's Persuader mutant guy has turned the Punisher into one of the Kingpin's minions. Dun dun dun.
The last panel.
Yeah, that doesn't last for more than just that one issue coming up, so don't worry. But this actually sets up a big problem for the Arranger afterwards, which we will get to.
Well, thanks for letting me know, Chris.
The other thing, well,
I was just going to say thanks for letting me know because I was worried because the Punisher, he can't be evil.
Deep dive continuity thing. Do you see what Peter mentioned? Something about a book called Webs. Do you know what Webs was?
No.
It was a magazine.
James Jonah Jameson, being the skinflint jackass publishing money grubbing son of a bitch that he is, took all of Peter's Spider-Man photos he's been taking since he was 16 years old, working at the Daily Bugle, and put them together in a book that got published and put Peter on tour and only gave Peter 10%.
Well, that sounds like JJ.
And this is a storyline that, excuse me, this is a storyline that, again, started in Amazing Spider-Man and it basically goes through all the Spider books. So after the Tombstone story is over, we're going to see Peter in a lot of different locations because he's traveling the world promoting Webs. And Mary Jane even points out, gee, Tiger, you're going to become more famous than even me. Because he has to go to book signing after book signing after book signing for Webs.
Got to get that 10%.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. I mean, you see Peter like at a bookstore and just piles upon piles of books and people lined out the door who want him to sign because they didn't know. A lot of people, if you don't live in New York and the internet wasn't around at this time, I'm sure that's been a retcon later on, that nobody knew who the photographer was who took the pictures of Spider-Man. In fact, a lot of times, like in the movie, Jameson protects Peter's identity when the Green Goblin shows up. They don't give Peter the byline, or they didn't after a while, so Peter could protect his identity at home, so a villain didn't come after Peter through Aunt May at home, not knowing he's Spider-Man who's taking the pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think JJ wouldn't give him a byline because then he'd have to give him more money?
No, he did it out of respect to Peter to protect him.
Okay.
Yeah, no, in an upcoming storyline we will get to, we get to see how much Jonah actually likes both Peter and unfortunately has to admit how good Spider-Man really is.
Okay.
Which, by the way, if you're currently reading Amazing Spider-Man, he has a podcast right now, which is very funny because we're on a podcast. Yes, Jonah has a podcast, and it's a pro Spider-Man podcast. But trust me, he takes his shots at Spider-Man, even though he knows Spider-Man is his former employee and former nephew, Peter Parker, because Aunt May used to be married to Jonah's father. So they were like stepbrothers or something. Even though he's pro Spider-Man in his podcast, he'll still take his shots at Spider-Man whenever Spider-Man doesn't follow his advice. There's a great issue of Amazing Spider-Man where Peter is hanging outside battling the supervillain, and Jonah's leading out with a microphone trying to get a quote. Now, going right into the Gwen Stacy clone. Yes, the clone of Gwen Stacy shows up in this, and she's being chased by enemies of the High Evolutionary. Why in the world would this be relevant to WandaVision? Do either one of you know?
No, I do not. How about you, Rich?
The Wendigo cow, maybe?
Yes, the High Evolutionary, who's basically Island of Dr. Moreau kind of guy. He created the midwife cow woman, and I don't mean like a fat woman who's a cow or derogatory statement like that. There is an actual cow / mutant woman, like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is a turtle turned into a human sized turtle. Okay, so that's what I'm clear. Just in case anyone has a problem with the way I'm saying it, but she is a cow woman. She was the midwife to deliver Pietro and Wanda in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
And she was and they after the mother, in one continuity or another, we're not going to get into the giant debate on whether or not they're the children of Magneto or not. But in one continuity, the wife found out that who Eric Lencher really was and what type of madman he was, ran away pregnant to Wundagore Mountain and gave birth to the twins, and the cow woman was the midwife.
Right. And the mother
they lived on Wundagore Mountain. They lived under Wundagore Mountain under the protection of the High Evolutionary for quite some time, who was basically creating an island of Dr. Moreau. The reason why they're chasing the Gwen Stacy clone, I don't want to get into it yet. It does tie into High Evolutionary. It does tie into heavy Clone Saga stuff. I think all that stuff is still in continuity. I can tell you right now, the Gwen Stacy clone is dead. Done and dead. No longer ever coming back. We don't need her anymore because we have the Ghost Spider, who is Spider-Gwen from another universe. And she gets, by the way, she had a miniseries where the jackass pedophile Jackal character, made his disgusting comments at her. Like, hey, by the way, did you know I used to bang a clone of yours on this earth? Because I couldn't have you. I decided to clone one of you so I could have you to myself. Gross, dude. Very gross.
So is this the first time a clone has been referenced in Spider-Man?
Are you not aware of the original Clone Saga from the 70s?
No.
Okay. Long story short, Jackal, Professor Miles Warren, hated Spider-Man because he was banging Gwen Stacy, or so he thought, and he wanted to. I'm not even joking. That is the reason why the Jackal hates Spider-Man, because he wanted to bang his college student. So first, he convinces the Punisher, in the first appearance of the Punisher, that Spider-Man killed industrialist Norman Osborn, and he's an evil guy, and he should be killed. Never mind the Punisher is doing work for a guy dressed in like a goblin jackal costume. So, but whatever. We didn't write the Punisher very well, which is very funny considering Jerry Conway created the Punisher. And who's the writer of this story? Jerry Conway. So, long story short, the Jackal clones Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Without getting into the whole Ben Reilly Clone Saga nonsense of the 90s, let's just keep it right now for he cloned Gwen Stacy, he cloned Peter Parker. Peter thought the clone was dead, he dumped it in his smokestack. Gwen Stacy walked away, never to be seen ever again until this story. However, there is also Carrion, Carrion, a living corpse character who is possibly the clone of Miles Warren in one story that we will get to when we get to issue 149. There is so much to unpack. It's ridiculous, but let's just leave it at Spider clone right now. Sorry, Gwen clone, dead.
Okay.
She was killed during Spider Island, if you've ever read that story.
Have not.
That's where the bed bugs were infected with spider power stuff or whatever, and bit everyone in New York, and everyone in New York got spider powers.
Oh, I remember the storyline. It was just kind of silly.
Yes, and it was orchestrated by the Jackal in league with the Spider Queen, who is an Avenger villain from way back in Captain America's day fighting Nazis. And the first thing she did was kill the Gwen clone.
Death to Gwen.
That's also where, by the way, like Anti-Venom came from too, by the way, because Eddie Brock was, there was the whole Anti-Venom thing. I'm not going to get into it. It's too much to unpack. But let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
That's your rundown of the Clone Saga for now. I don't want to get into any more of it because we do have 2 more appearances of her coming up, as well as the High Evolutionary War Annual and issue 149. And then we never fucking see these characters ever again until the 90s.
Well, Peter will save her. Peter.
Yes, Peter will save her. Just a real quick rundown of the ads in the issue. There's a G.I. Joe ad that you can get the Fridge, Bazooka, Major Blood action figures, which I think is kind of cool. And the spotlight of over 4,000 comics at the Mile High comic book store in Denver, Colorado you could order from.
Oh.
No.
And it says, next issue, what does the Arranger want with the Punisher? To eliminate in Dallas, Spider-Man finds out while he's there promoting his photo book, but he may not wish to save his intended victim. See you there. That's very important to an upcoming storyline in this actual comic book that we are reading when we get to the 150s.
Awesome.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Can't wait.
No spoilers. It's really cool, and honestly, it will come up to it. It's the comic book that made me love this series so much. It's graphically violent, let's just say. There is shit in here that will turn you white.
I can't wait to read it. I'm definitely enjoying this trip, Chris. So thank you so much for suggesting that. Coming up with this idea. I think it's great to get through these spectacular Spider-Mans that a lot of people haven't read and for some reason aren't on Marvel Unlimited. So a lot of people can't really read unless you have the back issues.
Right. And by the way, in the bulletin bullpins, which is basically talking about what else is happening in the Marvel Universe, besides their profile on Bobby Chase, who was an editor at Marvel, a female editor at the time, they talk about the Evolutionary War, and it kicks off this month in the Punisher Annual Number 1, Silver Surfer Annual Number 1, X-Factor Annual Number 3, and the Amazing Spider-Man and the Uncanny X-Men. And by the way, even Alf, yes, the Melmac fuzzy alien, had a tie-in to the High Evolutionary War. So that annual that we are talking about would come out at least a few months before issue 149, but probably prior to Inferno, because Inferno ends and then that issue of 149, which has a lot to unpack, happens.
Okay, if we're going to be covering that, just give me a heads up so I can hunt it down.
We will. We're still a little ways away from Inferno, but I will find out what issues that's going to happen soon, because that is a 3-month Marvel crossover event. So a lot of stuff to read.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so we will do 3. We honestly should do a couple episodes dedicated to the main event. There's so many tie-ins to it.
Sounds good. Yeah, just give me a heads up and we'll figure it out.
Okay, because we're going to have to do the same thing for X of Vengeance, which is the Cosmic Spider-Man story. That's a multi-part crossover with all the other Spider-Man books. I will have to cover.
Sweet.
Yeah,
a lot of
I can cover Spectacular, the main show. Splash Pages can cover everything else happening in X of Vengeance. It was basically a guy shows up at all the villains' doorsteps and says, "Hey, you suck at fighting the Fantastic Four, Dr. Doom. Why don't you go fight the X-Men? And you, Kingpin, suck at fighting Daredevil. Why don't you go fight Captain America?" And it's revealed that person's Loki. Which, if you couldn't figure that out from the very beginning, it's like...
Very cool. Well, I know you have to go. Chris, was there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap it up?
Nope.
Okay. So, Chris, where do you like people interacting with you?
You can find me over at Goth Girl Horror, the Hack Slash podcast, my other comic book show with Charcy Lux. We have 2 episodes coming out this week. One covering My First Maniac issues 3 and 4, which is the origin of Cassie Hack. And we also have a giant review episode of Cassie Hack products, including the terrible Cassie Hack toy that just came out. And let me tell you, we are not nice, but as professional as we can be about it. We had a stipulation from Tim Seeley. Your podcast is your podcast, but don't post it on Twitter. Like the Twitter account promotes the podcast, but he would prefer us not to say the toy fucking sucks on the Twitter account because we do carry his label, his logo, his official title. So, but the podcast is our podcast.
Yeah.
And you can find me over at the Vlada Dracula page where you can pick up my graphic novel, which is now in print. Most of the Kickstarters are out. The exception of a few international ones and some people's whose surveys were completely messed up.
And Velvet Joker, what about you, sir?
Well, you can find me, Rich Davis, on Facebook, or Velvet Joker 2021 on Instagram.
Okay. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. But more importantly, follow these awesome people and head on over to thedorkening.com, which you can find most of the shows on the network, about 30 plus shows, which is absolutely insane. And with that, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Peace out.